What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hobby Hotline. This is episode 358. It is another week here with myself as the host and then Rich as a co-host. We are bringing Orlando, phenomenal, another co-host here along with us. Last week we had Chris. This week we have Orlando. I'll kick it to you first, Orlando. How you doing? What you been up to this week?
Doing great. Just hobbying.
Nice. Yeah, love that. Rich, how about you? What you been up to?
First, let me ask Orlando. Do you have anything you need to share with us on your health updates? Because we know you had a tough surgery earlier this year.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, the surgery, of course, all that went well and everything. I started chemotherapy. I've done 4 sessions, so I'm done with the chemo right now, and feeling much, much better. Starting to do my walks again. I'll see the doctor next week. I had a CT scan done, so they kind of see the progress. But next step is going through the immunotherapy sessions, and that shouldn't be as difficult as chemo. Chemo was pretty tough. It was 8-hour sessions. So this is, it's still an IV and stuff, but it's about an hour or two. And I'll do the immunotherapy after the doctor looks at the CT scans and sees how the cancer has been hopefully beaten down.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we sure hope
we're all thinking of you, Orlando. Thank you so much for joining. I mean, obviously, you're one of the original Hobby Hotline hosts here, so it's definitely good to have a crew of a great crew we got here. Like I said, So Rich, I mean, anything else? What you got going on this week?
Yeah, both Orlando and I were chatting when we were in the green room before the show. Neither of us have a hobby show this weekend to go to. No. I mean, this is like a dead hobby weekend. There's not a lot going on in the sports card world. It's kind of a weird thing. I think I saw Boston has their big show this weekend, which has a lot of vintage guys, and it's a good place to be. Other than that, I've not seen a lot of shows this weekend. And in DFW, it's shocking not to have anything.
Yeah, I think the Philly show is going on too, but I think that's about it.
Yeah, as we get past the summer into this next season, I mean, it's daylight savings already tomorrow, which is like crazy. So make sure to remind everybody to set your clocks back an hour or forward an hour. I just let my iPhone tell me what time it is, and then I'll set whatever clocks I have in the house based on what my iPhone says in the morning. So I don't know. It's been slow and busy here in the sports card industry. And I mean, the first kind of story we'll kick off with here as we get into the show is going to be some news, but some not news. Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen and it's not working. Some news and some not news that came out Thursday night into Friday there was a new article written by Reuters that said that Panini was potentially going to be selling to Topps. And essentially that was, and this is, I thought I was like, well, this is going to be one of the biggest stories of the year. And then I saw more people talking about it. I saw actually Mike Geo from Sports Card Nonsense. He was on a live talking about how the article, and obviously I pulled up a on the side if you want to check this article out and read more in depth. We're kind of going to go over some of the, our thoughts here. But essentially what happened was Reuters wrote a new article that was referencing a newspaper article from 2021 that was talking about the price of Panini, and that, if you look at it, the only real company in the industry that would be able to buy at that price would be Topps. So it was Reuters wrote an article, which then Sports Collectors Daily wrote an article, and it seemed like it was just everyone was just having a source off, basically. Like everybody was sourcing this old article, and so I guess it's technically not correct. I mean, I'll kind of kick it around the panel here. Like, Rich, what were your thoughts on this? I mean, your initial thoughts, and now your thoughts now, as we know that sort of this story is not really a story, kind of.
Well, my first thing is a person who has gone through a sale of a hobby entity. When I was working at Beckett, Dr. Jim sold it to Apprise Media at the time, and he did his best, depending on what level you were at the company. And since I was just an average employee, the executive team was obviously kept a little more apprised than we were, but he kept everybody apprised to the best that he could about what was going on. So my first thought is always, if you work for Panini, I hope you're getting accurate information from your upper management as to what they're able to share. And I think the one key thing that was posted in the articles that we saw that triggered all this was that the passing of the Panini CEO in Italy, I believe in April, a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the key, because to me, there are two keys. One is the new management really looking to sell or not? And two, are their lawyers telling them, hey, guys, you're not going to win this lawsuit against Fanatics, or you're going to win it, but you're not going to get what you really want out of it anyway. So if you sell it, you're doing just as well. Because, what happens in lawsuits, especially these type of lawsuits, the only people who win, who get any money and get any money out of it, are the lawyers.
The lawyers. That's what I was just about to say. Yeah. And yeah, like the other part that I guess in theory there should have been some red flags. It's like Panini and Topps / Fanatics are like in an antitrust lawsuit, so they're trying to prove some sort of I don't know if this is the correct terminology. I'm not going to try and pretend like I know the exact terminology here, but some sort of antitrust where they were saying Topps and Fanatics are trying to start a monopoly, but then Panini in this lawsuit is then going to sell to Topps. Like that probably, in theory, in retrospect, that should have been a little bit of a red flag. Orlando, how about you? What were your initial thoughts when you saw this? And then what are your thoughts kind of now that we are sort of past and it may potentially not even be, it was just a source off. It was not really any new news, I guess.
Yeah, I just think that, it's kind of standard when the CEO passes away. Some of the board members, I think, wanted to see what the value of the company was. And, a few years ago, they valued it at, I think it was $2 billion. So now they estimate it at $3 to $4 billion. So, they hired Citigroup to just kind of do really a study and see what the price was or would be if they decided to sell. And I think that's kind of, when you have a big company like that, they just kind of want to do stuff like that, not necessarily to sell. Now, Ben Burrows ran an article this morning on Collect, and he said that it came out on Reuters and at a paper out in, I think it was Italy or Spain, that apparently have more information that we would have, that said that really, but that Fanatics was not interested in buying them. And there was really no reason why Fanatics would want to buy them, because there isn't that much at this point that Fanatics can get out of buying the company. And if you look back, I mean, they've lost their licenses. I mean, basically all they have right now is some soccer licenses, I think DC or Marvel, something like that they have, the stickers. But I think the only thing they really, and Fanatics, remember, they've already have some soccer licenses. They have the Bundesliga and they have the European League.
Yeah, the Premier League. They actually just got the Premier League from Panini. Yeah. Right.
So, what Panini has is just a portion of that. And I think eventually, that there's a contract also already in place that when Panini, they signed an 8-year contract for soccer. And when that goes away, which I don't know, it's going to be maybe a few years from now, Topps is taking it over on top of that. So right. The only thing that Panini really has left is some of their IPs, the Flawless, the Kabooms, the Downtowns, the Prism brands. So those are the brands that they still have that might be an interest to Fanatics. But when you think about, Fanatics bought Topps for $500 million. I don't think they're going to pay anywhere near, $2, $3, or $4 billion for Panini once they've been stripped of most of their licenses, and all they've got is just, brand names, the national treasures and things like that they would have. In my opinion, Fanatics can, create their own things. I know that they also, Panini also has Donruss Optics, but those are all, what they say, IPs. And I think those are not valued for that kind of money. So that's why I think that overall Fanatics is not going to end up buying them, and especially with the lawsuit going on at this time.
Yeah, I mean, all that Fanatics has to do is just buy the licenses. Like you're right. I don't see a reason why Fanatics would want to buy Panini. Like when they could just go out and buy the license and then start their own thing. Like, I mean, because Panini was pretty famous. Well, I don't know if they're famous necessarily, but they were known for buying, companies like Donruss. They bought companies like Playoff, which is the Contenders brand. And it's like they have bought companies that turned into some of their biggest brands, but they also started some of the biggest, some of their own brands, Prism, Optic, which is kind of off of Donruss, I suppose, but like they started their own brand. So, to sit here, I don't think that Fanatics really has much interest. Like they have an unlimited checkbook with Michael Rubin. So like if they wanted to, they could have probably already done this. Like as soon as there was some sort of, lawsuit with Fanatics and Panini, like they could have just stepped in and said, hey, how about we just end this right now and we'll just buy you? Like that's, they have the money to do it. So, and then, so I think we have Panini did not start Prism. I suppose that if Rich, do you know what he's talking about there?
And he follows it up on his next post.
Mike Kramer. So Mike Kramer. So now I guess this is a learning opportunity for me here. I don't know who that is, I suppose.
Mike Kramer is the owner and founder of Pacific Trading Cards. Pacific did cards in the 90s and 2000s. They had a baseball license and a hockey license and a football license. And self-serving pub. If you want to hear some really good background, Dr. Jim and I did a 3-part series with him last year on his podcast when his Kramer's Choice book came out. So if you really want to dig into who Mike Kramer is, he wrote an autobiography basically.
Yeah, but Panini does own the Prism with a Z brand now, because that's how they one of the main products that they started. But yes, Mike Kramer, he was one of the original innovators of all of the things that you see today. A lot of those technology.
Yeah, and the other thing with Mike is Mike was ahead of his time in so many ways.
Yeah.
One of the things was that he had to build, the Pacific Trading Cards building where they made their cards. They had a small shop right outside the building. They actually were able to do real collector-based focus groups based on what they were selling in their own store. In those days, it was a bit of a conflict of interest. It was subtle because, they knew it was what, and obviously they had to sell the cards at the retail prices that Pacific wanted them to sell it at. But it was good because then they could see real customer reaction to selling, to what their products were doing at a store and what the customers were thinking about it. So in a way, he was way ahead of his time, with all the tentacles Fanatics have now. Kramer was way ahead of his time in the 90s. The world of conflict of interest was 80s and 90s was much. If you're doing this, if you do X, you don't do Y. Like, for example, there was a hubbub when the people from Sports Collectors Digest wanted to run a national. They bid for the national for Milwaukee in 1985. It's not a terrible, today it would be, okay, hey, great, the leading hobby publication wants to run a national. That makes total sense. In 1985, it's like, this isn't good. What about the other hobby publications? This is a conflict of interest, and you shouldn't be doing this. So what does today is fine, wasn't okay 40 years ago.
Right. And so, I mean, I think we can. There is a secondary topic here that I think is interesting that we will transition to. Was there any last minute thoughts here that you guys had on this? I don't know, potential sale, potential not sale, potential. I don't know. It's just it's interesting that like there was the article was written based on a 2021 source, and that there was no update that really, and then it just became an article. I don't know. It's just the whole thing is a little bit interesting to me, and I'll ask you guys like any last thoughts here before we kind of move on to the secondary topic that I think is kind of connected here, but maybe it potentially could not be connected at all. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think it's just all rumors. A lot of talk out there, but I don't think Fanatics will benefit by buying out Panini.
Yeah. And then, so we had, another interesting think piece, I suppose, from the president of Upper Deck this week. He posts on LinkedIn pretty frequently, and apparently this one, Ivan from Watch the Breaks posted this on Twitter, and it went viral. I mean, every hobby publication people were talking about it, and I mean, I talked about it on Daily Nonsense on the Sports Card Nonsense YouTube channel and all that stuff. So I don't know. I mean, it's Jason, like, this seemed very much like he was getting a lot of his talking points from Twitter, or like from what people are talking about, because all of these things that he's saying is what I feel like I see on a daily basis on those platforms. And I'll give my thoughts after you guys do. But so, Rich, I'll start with you. What were your kind of thoughts here when this came across your desk this week?
Okay, first, Jason has a very long true hobby history. I don't remember if he owned or managed a store, but he's been involved in the hobby at the basic grassroots level of being in a store dealing with customers. And that's something that it's good to see anybody involved in upper management of a card company having that experience. And he also famously posted in February 2020, winter is coming. He wasn't wrong. It's just that 1 month later, the world changed and the hobby went from maybe winter is coming to, hey, forever autumn.
Right.
In the memory, I'm going to say forever autumn, in the memory of the late John Lodge, who, along with Justin Hayward, had released that. It is a cover song, but it's a great song if you like old music like I do. But that's a different subject for a different day. But he is concerned on a day-to-day basis, because if the hobby gets too hype-based, Upper Deck's primary license is hockey. Hockey has perhaps the most loyal brand of collectors out there. They have their collectors. They're not as many as in baseball, football, or basketball, but they're loyal. And they're loyal to their players. They're loyal to their teams. A lot of hockey's very affordable. And if the hype gets too much, in his opinion, some of those people might fall off. And that's where he's coming from on that he sees what his collectors are saying. And he sees what his dealers are saying.
Yeah. And Orlando, how about you? What were your kind of thoughts when you saw this week?
Yeah, I just think that he said what I think many of us have been thinking about for a long time. We see the direction that the hobby's been going for a while. Some of it is with breakers coming in there and buying these boxes, and everything is jacked up. And it's gotten to a point that we used to buy a box and build sets, and it's not happening anymore. The collectors really can't afford to buy any of the new boxes, right now. Everything's just so expensive. And he also did an interview after this comment, and I posted on my channel there, that he mentioned, and he talked a little bit about his son collecting cards, and he bought a box for his son. And he saw his son open the box, and what he would do was he would pull out the numbered cards and the inserts, and literally he saw his son throw away the base cards. And, I think that, what's happening right now is that it's almost like gambling. And, you see all the gambling things that are happening and, everywhere. It's just so easy to gamble that I guess the kids are getting involved in it now. And they see this as a form of gambling for kids. And, I agree that this is hurting the hobby. It's helping because it's bringing people into the hobby. But it's bringing them in, I think, for the wrong reason, not for the collecting aspect of it, but for the gambling aspect of it. And, he's right when he says that, only the top 10% or the top people with money can afford really to buy these boxes and open up these boxes. That's why a lot of them are getting into the breaks. That's, the only other way you can afford it. But I'm concerned about the hobby, going the gambling route. It's been happening for a while, and that means you have less and less collectors. Hopefully some of these kids will hang in there and be collectors, But the way it's going and the way the prices are going for all these cards, I mean, it's crazy. I saw yesterday on one of the business channel that Mr. Wonderful came up there and shared 3 of the new cards that he had bought for his Wondershine group, and there were 3 cards of Luka Doncic, one of ones, patch autos, and he paid $12 million for those. So I mean, he's already bought the Jordan Kobe for 12 million. 3 more cards, one of ones of Luka for 12 million. And I think people see that that makes the big news, the national news, and they think that that's the future, and it's kind of scary to think that that's going to be the future of the card market. These modern cards selling for that kind of money, and the kids trying to go on breaks and trying to win or pull these cards, and really ignoring everything else, in the hobby. So it's a good and bad situation, but I do agree with Jason, and that is the way that we've been heading, and we've been heading that way for the last couple of years.
I will also say it's a higher dollar value, but that's been going on for at least 40 years now. I tell the story of my old friends, Henry Davis and Hans Jubelt, and they had truly a neighborhood store in Garfield, New Jersey. Hi, Mookie. Yes, I can go into the Garfield show too that you mentioned way earlier in the podcast, and Gary will let me in. And you won't even have to cover the $2. Gary will take care of that for me. And the kids would buy 85 Topps packs at 50 cents each, and at the store. And if they got the Gooden or the Mattingly or the Eric Davis rookie or whomever was hot, they would keep them, and they would put the rest of the cards on the counter. They didn't even want the rest of the cards in the pack. 2 years later, in 1987, well, H&H was having a grand old time selling the McGuire rookies at $12 each. That they were left on the counter. And so that's been going on since the beginning of Dawn. I mean, let's face it, back in the day, a Mickey Mantle card when you're trading with your kids was worth more than a Jim Baxis card. You probably needed 10 Jim Baxis to get one Mickey Mantle. So it's nothing's changed except now the dollar levels are much, much higher.
Yeah, I mean, I on one hand enjoy gambling. Like I like sports gambling. I like betting on games, but I also think that it's a very slippery slope. And I know that there's a lot of people that like gambling is as addictive as any drugs or alcohol, and it's like the rush of gambling can be very addictive, and that's. I worry, I'm not even really worried at this point because it's if you watch any sporting event, every team is sponsored by DraftKings or MGM. It's like every commercial is like, hey, do this same game parlay and win this much. And it's like, if you gamble or if you have gambled on sports, you will know that like even the professional gamblers, they lose 40 to 50% of the time. People who do it for a living and also it's to the point where it's like if you win too much in gambling, these sites, DraftKings, FanDuel, they have the right to basically just kick you off the site. They have not the right necessarily, but it's in their terms of service that they can either kick you off or they can limit how much you gamble. So it's like even if you are winning at gambling, they can basically make it so you can't win. It's really kind of odd. So and I think unfortunately within the sports, we are in a sports industry that is, there's money from sports, there's all of these things. And unfortunately, gambling and sports have just become synonymous. And I don't know at what point somebody steps in here and they do something similar to, you can't advertise cigarettes on TV anymore. I think it's going to be very similar where you're not going to be able to advertise. I heard someone give a very interesting example. I don't know if anybody in the chat knows this guy. So there's a guy named CoffeeZilla who does like crypto investigations, and he did an interesting video this week where he was talking about the gambling epidemic kind of in the country and how, sports books like DraftKings and FanDuel will do, hey, if you bet $5, you get 200 free. It's like, imagine if that was, imagine if that was sports cards, or imagine if that was, like cigarettes. Like imagine if a cigarette company was like, "Hey, buy 5 packs of cigarettes, get 200 free." It's like if you know, and I know I know it's not apples to apples there, the comparison, but it's like that. Imagine if that was the advertising that cigarette companies did. Like imagine like you buy a pack of 5, then you get 200 free cigarettes or whatever. So I think that there's probably going to be a shift somewhere in the future where you won't be able to advertise. I wouldn't be surprised if they take the gambling apps off of your phone, because like if you have to go to a casino, sometimes just going would stop enough people from gambling. I've been sports gambling since before it was, before DraftKings was even on your phone. So it's like, I think within sports cards, unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe for some people, maybe for the companies, because they're making the money here, the gambling is just part of it. And, with what Jason said, like, I thought a lot of the stuff that he said, I was sort of, when I saw it, it felt very much like it was somebody who was new to the industry commenting on the industry. But then obviously, I go to his LinkedIn profile and I see that he's been at Upper Deck for 20 years and he's been in the industry for a while. I don't know. It just seemed weird to me that, like, also it seemed weird to me also that the Reuters article came out the same week as this one. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm not trying to, I don't know. I believe in some conspiracies, and so I don't know if that's so much of a stretch to think that, like, and maybe Upper Deck wasn't getting the press that they thought that they would get from this. Maybe people were disagreeing. So, and I don't know if I think Upper Deck and Reuters are working together necessarily. I just thought it was a weird coincidence that the Reuters article comes out about Topps and Panini or whatever, and the same week that this comes out. I just thought that was kind of an interesting coincidence, I would say. But yeah, so Rich, for you, like, was there anything in this, post that you didn't agree with, or maybe there was something that you did agree with? Like, what were your, like, on specific points that he made? Was there any ones that stuck out to you?
No, it was really more the general tone. As I mentioned, he's always been concerned with the overall health of the hobby. Mm-hmm. Upper Deck is an important, but obviously not the prominent player in the hobby at this point. But he understands, based on what comes across his desk, what's going on. And as I pointed out, since he started as a store manager owner, that's a big difference from a lot of other people who are in upper management of card companies. He was in the grassroots. He was on the ground. His feet were on the ground in the hobby. I think in Michigan, if I remember correctly. And that's the big difference, where he sees what's going on with hockey. A couple of years ago, Upper Deck had a boomer year when Connor Bedard was a rookie. By the way, Connor Bedard, the last time I checked a couple of days ago, last 5 games, he had scored like 8 points. He's doing just fine this year. He didn't explode as a rookie, but very few hockey players have insane rookie seasons. But if you score 8 points in 5 games and you keep that up for a season, that's well over 100 points for the season. And that's
right
in hockey, really good. So he saw what happened a couple of years ago. And he understands that not every year hockey's going to have a guy like that. It does not happen very often in hockey compared to the other sports where rookies just come and explode.
Right. Pause. Yeah. Right.
I think that my big take from his entire comment there was where he says that this isn't sustainable, that there's going to be a time, I think, that the bubble is going to burst. I mean, how much further can this continue with the expensive boxes and things like that? And, that's my concern. And remember what happened back in the junk wax era, and there was a time that all of a sudden the bubble burst and a lot of people got out of the hobby and the prices just went down, and the junk wax era. So I think that's the worry, how much longer is this going to continue until people just finally give up and some even get out of the hobby. And, you see the repacks going on, and, the big difference between the gambling and our gambling, hobby gambling, is it's not regulated. So, you've got people doing these repacks and these breakers that really are not as honest as they should be, in my opinion.
I do. By the way, Rex has just made a really good point in the chat, and he's right, is that cards won't go to zero. There'll be some value for cards.
Mhm.
even if the hobby decreases a bit or the prices decrease a bit. There is something where you at least have something of value in your recoup. If you lose your money at the blackjack table, you got nothing.
Right. Yes.
If
Correct.
you lose money on cards, if you spend $100 on cards and you get $40, you still got $40. You didn't
Right.
lose all 100. You lost money, but you lost 60 of the 100. And so Rex's point's a really good point. And some store owners and some dealers I know, when Orlando talked about how prices cratered, well, if you have money, it is really easy to buy well during a down market. Rob Veras bought a ton when the market was going down after 94, 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
And that because he believed that he was buying stuff at such a depressed price, he did very well. Mookie, I'm going to talk about one of our friends from New Jersey, Ted Straka, who sets up at the Garfield show. Ted began about 94, 95 in the business, realizing there was a good opportunity, that the market had been X. Now it's percentage of X. Well, even if you go to X, percentage of X times 1.5, even if it's less than it was at the peak, you still have more room. And so you can make a lot of money in a down market. You just have to be careful about what the down market is and what you're buying. But if we talk a lot when I'm on Dr. Becca's podcast about dollar boxes and value boxes. If you buy from the value boxes, you might lose something, but you're pretty safe. What are you going to lose, $1?
Right. Exactly.
What are you going to lose, $1?
Yeah.
So it's much better than the $1,000 box where you get maybe $100 of cards. That's what Jason is worried about. But he's not worried about the people who buy the value boxes. And by the way, Rex just pointed out, if you look at his comment, and he's right about every one of those names.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll even touch on that, Rich. Like you said, like for me, like I was just talking about how I'd like to gamble on sports, but like I'm only betting like $1 or $2 at most. Like I put $5 on the Dodgers when the other night to win the World Series when they were down 3-2. So that's like I'll double my money if they end up winning tonight or whatever, if they play on Sunday or whatever. But so for me, I know how to control how much I'm spending on cards. Like in September, I did like a challenge where I was trying to find a different card at a different value every day. And I did that for like 15 days. And I did on the first, I did $1, second I did $2, the third I did $3 and so on and so forth. But I think that unfortunately that the gambling, I mean, I guess the addiction part of it comes from, you buy the box and it's like buying the box is not the part that people are. Well, actually, sorry, no. Buying the box is the part that people are addicted to. The opening up of the packs. And if you find a good card, obviously that's the rush you're looking for. But 9 times out of 10, you're not getting what you're getting out of those boxes. So, and I have a question for both of you guys, since you have been in this industry for much longer than I have. So Rich, I'll start with you. So I'm just trying to so the crash, I guess, is maybe the question that I have. It's about a crash. Like, have we seen a crash in the sports card industry that was because of sports cards and not because of what was going on in the economic climate just in general? Like, I just don't like, I've been in this since 2018, been making content, but I just don't, I'm trying to pinpoint when people are talking about a certain crash in the industry. So Rich, I'll ask you, like, that's kind of the question. Has there been a crash based on what's going on in the industry, or has it been based on what's going on in the world, I suppose? Or has there even been a crash? I don't know. Like, this is sort of, maybe I'm trying to learn here a little bit.
Sports cards are interrelated to the hobby. I mean, to the economy and to the sports world. The crash, the correction, whatever term you want to use, in 94, 95 was the combination of the people realizing maybe this won't pay for their kids' college education, and the baseball strike and the hobby lockout.
Mm-hmm.
So that became that. And then you had another correction, 2000, 2001, when the dot-com boom failed. And then, of course, 2007, 2008, if you had money, it was a great time to buy cards when we had the Great Recession. But 87, 88 had a hobby explosion when the stock market tanked because the world was still doing good. Also, the barrier to entry was much lower to enter to get a store in 1989 than it is today.
Mm-hmm.
We used to figure in 1990 to open a decent store in New Jersey was $25,000. Now you got to put at least you got to put a zero after that 25.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So that's a huge difference. That's a 10x in 35 years, and inflation has not been 10x in 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there will always be market corrections in any sort. There's always corrections at some point. The happy illusion does not last forever in anything. And I don't remember the term Alan Greenspan used about the housing market about 2007, but it's a perfect time to use that word because we don't know. But baseball cards, sports cards are becoming an asset class too for the really big hits. And let's be honest, I talked last week about going to my local card store, buying a blaster box of Topps basketball. The price was a little higher than if I had found it at a retail establishment, but it wasn't outrageous. And the price was something I could afford. And here's the kicker. What I was buying it, A, it's new Topps basketball, which is great, but B, I sure as heck wanted, especially being in the DFW area, I did not get any. Some nice Cooper flag card.
Mm.
So, you're looking for something. And, and whatever I got out of it, I got out of it. The open was fine. I just wish I had gotten a good Cooper flag card or better card than I did. I did okay, but not great for the price point, but it wasn't anything I couldn't not afford. And it's something to remember. And I noticed Rex, and I think Rex, because he is in the business every day, and there are times, I know John was saying in the chat, John Keating was saying in the chat how sports card stores aren't related. Well, if people stop going to sports card stores, then Rex can't have his two stores anymore.
Right.
So Rex definitely has something. And John, there is a one of one. If you want to really crowdfund me a Cooper flag card, there is a one-on-one superfractor available. Please, if you're going to crowdfund for me, please crowdfund for me one of those cards. So at least I can get a good card, a really good card.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Orlando, I'll ask you kind of a similar question. Also maybe, do you think that the ebbs and flows within the hobby come from the rookie classes as well? I think that's another thing that people kind of overlook when they talk about certain crashes during a certain period of time. Do you think that rookies have maybe more of an effect? I mean, I think obviously they do, but how much more of an effect do you think they have on the market as a whole, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, Rich made some great points, and there has been many ups and downs, and a lot of it is the hobby, like when there was the baseball strike, and most of it though is the economy. When the economy is good, people start spending money, and obviously there are some better classes than others. Sometimes we don't know which is going to be the best class until years later. We talked about the Brady, and even the Otani. You could have gotten the Otanis, pretty cheap, cheaper than Wander Franco's for a while there. So
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a little while to see which is the actual class or the year that's really going to take off. Sometimes you think it's that one, but it happens to be another one. So that is something that takes a little bit of time. But I think one of the differences that's happening, and we also remember we had the crash to COVID. COVID, it shot up, and then the prices crashed also when after COVID. So there's a lot of different things, but I think we're in a different time today, where going back to what Jason said with his 10% of the people with money. I think we're getting a lot of those people more into the hobby because they see it more as an asset class or a piece of art or a fancy watch. You know, they want something like that. And as we see the prices of gold shooting the highest ever, the stock market is at its peak. Bitcoin has shot up. You know, you see these people, you know, all of a sudden trying to put their money into a little more, I guess, solid or something they could hold on to. You know, I mean, you know, here recently, I think last week, one of these guys, Rob Go, and Rob Go was the guy that purchased a PSA 9 in 52 Mickey Mantle for, I think, 5.7 million. At the time, it was the highest price. He also had purchased the Pete Maravich rookie in a 10. There's only two known, and he bought it at $330,000, which you think that's way overpriced. Well, he just sold that card this week in a private sale for $700,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, here's a rich guy selling to another richer guy, you know, for even more money. So you've got big money, like we talked about, Mr. Wonderful, and these guys really coming in there into the hobby that we haven't seen, I don't think ever, you know, spending, you know, $1 million for cards that, in my opinion, really shouldn't be worth it. But since they're PSA 10s or PSA 9s, you know, they're buying the grade, not the card. So It's kind of crazy the way things are going right now. It's a little bit different than I think we've seen in the past when Rich was talking about, you're getting the McGuire rookie, and you know, still it may have seemed expensive back then, but nothing like the kind of money that's being spent today.
Right. And you know, I guess, Rich, I'll ask you another question similar to the last one. Do you think that the industry and people within the industry have like learned any lessons? Like, do you think that they have learned from, you know, the COVID boom and then some of the drops, or, you know, in the 80s or 90s when there was some really big increases in some of the prices and then some really big decreases? Do you think that that people have learned, like they have learned how to not have that happen? Or do you think that like the way that we're in the industry right now is maybe because people aren't learning? Like, what do you think about that?
I think you have a situation where, as I said, people think this party will never end.
Mm.
And that's because you always think that especially when you have money, you always think you're the smartest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike Gio doubled his money on the Maravich rookie. Maybe the next guy thinks I will also double my money.
Right.
Now, obviously, at some point, you know, it's like the game with the chairs. You're out of chairs.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to be the last. You don't want to be the last one standing, so to speak. You know, you don't want to have the cards if things happen. But long term, you're probably fine. But it's short term that you can always have ups and downs. And that's something we've always learned. Short terms, there's always ups and downs. Long term, you're probably okay.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and the thing at least this is my opinion, and I guess this is based on just being in the industry for 8 or 9 years at this point. Like, I just don't see how there would be like a massive crash again. Like, because essentially, if there is a crash, then people will still be buying the cards. Like, cards will always be there. So, like, if you see, you know, for example, if you see any of those LeBron rookies, so first of all, people have money, and even if it's not people in the industry or it is people in the industry, there are people that are going to have money to buy these cards. So, like, if you see, for example, you know, I think they bought one of the number to 23, the Shines group bought one of the number 23 LeBrons for like $4 million. Let's say that card goes back to $1 million. There's probably somebody who would be willing to buy that card at $1 million. And even if, hypothetically, if that drops to whatever, you know, 500,000, which I don't think it would, like, there are people that along the way of these cards dropping in price, they would be wanting to buy it, which essentially then drives the price back up. So I don't know. That's sort of how I see it. Like, I just don't know how. I don't know. It would have to come from, like I was saying, like, it would have to be something within the economy. And I just don't think so Bob said they won't let the crash happen.
No,
which,
they won't. Well,
you know,
look what happened with the Jordan rookie card, the Fleer. At one point, it went all the way up to I think $700,000,
right.
and now it's gone down. So now people are beginning to look at, hey, now it may be something we could look at buying again, even though it's still what, $200,000. So if the
Yeah, I think
price
it's
is
like
right,
250. I think was the last sale. I
250,
think like
yeah.
Golden or someone sold one.
Yeah, I mean, if someone feels that the price is right, they're going to buy it. I mean, who wouldn't want that card? But it's just a matter
right.
of, can you afford it? And that kind of puts us back to that Baltimore News Babe Ruth we were going to talk about. Maybe there's a good time
Phenomenal transition.
to start talking about that one. I
Yep.
mean, yes, you can hold on to it, and like Rich was saying, in long term, you're probably going to make money. But here's a guy that bought it, maybe a year and a half ago, and decided to sell it, pretty quickly, in my opinion. Now, that card at the beginning, it was I guess a new discovery, and it was really hyped up. It was all over the news. It was really, really pumped up pretty big. Not just the news, but the auction companies and stuff did it too. So you probably had two guys really bidding it up,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden it goes boom, $7 million. Now I guess the guy that bought it, now I don't know if it was shill bidding. I mean, they say that it could have been some shill bidding involved in that. Who knows? But all of a sudden the guy that really wanted it badly, now they got it, he's selling it, and who's to know that maybe this guy that just bought it now was the underbidder. I don't
Right.
know. I would assume he was, and he gets it at a $3 million discount because the guy who originally got it, that pumped it up, that had the FOMO, all of a sudden doesn't want it anymore.
Mm.
So that's it's crazy that card. Yeah, maybe 5 years from now it is worth 7 or even 10. But remember when it first came up for sale, they were projecting it would sell at some people said $10 million. It was a $10 million card when it was first
Right.
went up for sale. And, it came out at 7. And now, look what happened. What do you
Right.
think about that,
Yeah,
Rich?
Right. Yeah, Rich, I'll kick it to you, and then I have some thoughts on this card as well. But I'll let you go first here, Rich.
Well, I will let you go and reiterate what you said on your wonderful daily nonsense podcast. I think you had some really salient points about all these topics this week, and I'll highly recommend anybody go listen to your daily nonsense podcast. As I said, I'm glad you were able to transition that from your sports collectors daily days to the sports card nonsense / daily nonsense world, and it's now part of my daily routine. I still want to see it like it was on with a Saturday recap where you just do them all, so I don't have to worry about missing them once a day. This way I just get them once. But the whole thing is skipping everything else. This is a great item. This is a legitimate item with market scarcity from the first year Babe Ruth was in professional baseball.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't a lot of those around. I think there's less than 20 known officially. And it's rarer than the Wagner. It's Babe Ruth, 1914, 19-year-old kid. It's kind of a card, kind of not a card, but close enough where you can say it's a card. And less than 20, Babe Ruth, age 19. That's a wonderful, wonderful card. And Babe Ruth is one of these transcendent names in sports. He will always be transcendent. He's the one person I think that people will always remember from the first half of the 20th century when it came to baseball. So you get all that and you get a card that people really want. And so as such, whether the real value is $1 million, 4 million, 10 million, it's just a really cool item.
Right. Yeah, I agree. The card is, I think like you were saying, it's more rare than the Wagner. Like, I think it's confirmed there are only 10 to 15 copies, not even just graded copies, just regular copies in general. So like this SGC3, I don't know if I guess it probably is maybe the highest grade if I had to guess. But the $3 million loss, it really is interesting to me. The sports card industry and the commentary around it is very interesting. It feels like it's one of the only industries where something can sell for $4 million and people can be like angry about it. Like, something within our industry sold and someone bought it for 4 million, someone sold it for 4 million, and we're like, well, what the hell happened here? Like, how did it only sell for 4? Now, I mean, some of the stuff that I talked about on the show was like, this was I remember actually covering this on like Hobby News Daily, like back in probably December of 2023 when it sold, and all of the news publications that you can buy articles for were saying this was going to be the most expensive. Like, the headline I remember was, this is going to be the most expensive sports card of all time, and then in the details you had, this was going to sell for $12 million. It was all of these things. So like, somebody spent a lot of money on advertising for that card, which, when you're doing that, you're not advertising within like, SI collectibles.si or si.collect/collectibles or collects or sports collectors daily. They were advertising where people that probably aren't super in tune with the industry are going to see this. Potentially people with money, obviously, but like, they were saying it was supposed to be the most expensive sports card of all time, and then it was $5 million less than what people said it should have sold for. So I think that there could have been a little bit of inflating from the advertising and the marketing around this, and I think that there was probably a little bit of a deflating on the second sale of this card. I didn't know about it until like the day before it sold, which, I'm not saying I know everything about sports cards, but I do a daily show and I have to cover topics that I see on Twitter or wherever. And it's like, I didn't really see that this was a card being sold until a day before. So it's like, somebody who is going to be buying a $4 million card, it's not their last $4 million hypothetically they have in their bank account, but to want to buy something for $4 million, it's probably not just like, I'm going to go buy this for $4 million. Like, they probably have to, there's probably a lot of details and stuff behind the scenes that they have to spend. So I don't know. I mean, I think the market is the market. So the market has determined that this is only a $4 million card. Should it have sold for that originally? I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably the largest decrease in a sports card sale of all time. Losing $3 million on one card is, not great, I would say. But Orlando, for you, like, do you think that this is do you think that, I don't know. I just don't know why it's sold. And I mean, Orlando, I'll ask you this question. Why do you think, and I know that's obviously hypothetical, but why do you think that this card sold so quickly after, in less than 2 years? Why do you think that happened?
That's a tough question to answer, because, I mean, we never really found out who was the buyer. And I think that's really where the question would come from. If it was a collector, like Marshall Fogel, I couldn't see him selling that card or selling it that quickly. If it was somebody that wasn't as familiar, and maybe just one of these guys that just had a lot of money, like Mr. Wonderful, for example,
right.
Then I could see him maybe trying to turn a profit and say, well, it should have sold for 10 or 12 and it didn't. Maybe I can sell it now and get 10 or 12, but when you look at things like that, I mean, let's go back to Mr. Wonderful's card, $12.7 million Kobe Jordan card. If he sold that card today, I think no one would buy that card for that kind of money. I think it would lose probably even more than the $3 million of this Babe Ruth card. They sold it today. I can't see anybody paying more than, $5-6 million for that card. I think that 12.7 was overpaid. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it all depends. It's tough to say what happened with this card, because we never really found out who actually bought it and who's actually selling it. It's not like you can go to eBay or go somewhere and find out, the bids on that. So I can't really answer that. I think, who knows? I just think it's somebody that maybe he needed the money and wanted to just, liquidate it. I don't know. There's some rumors out there that said that, that some of the what do you call it? The auction house, bought it or bid it up or whatever. I mean, who knows at this point? We just don't know, because the person who originally bought it and sold it hasn't come out. And even the person that has bought it now at 4 million hasn't come out and said, hey, I bought it, Could it have been Heritage that decided to, hey, we're going to go ahead and bid on it and get it at 4 million. I think it's a deal at
Right.
4 million. We don't know at this point, and maybe some more information will come out later, and we're able to see what happened.
Orlando, I will also point out, and this is going back to the 20th century, Todd McFarlane overpaid for Mark McGwire's 70th home run ball.
Yes.
And the reason he overpaid was frankly for two reasons. One, it made sure that his name was out there. And two, he was working on getting a license for his figures, and showing how serious he was really helped him get all those licenses. Sometimes, and I'm going to just say this, and I have no idea because I've obviously never met the man, but Mr. Wonderful may have overpaid deliberately to get the word out that he's got whatever money it needs to take to buy the very best cards.
Yep.
And that's a business model too. When you have that much money, you can afford to do that. So you overpay for what you perceive as the best card to show to people you're serious. So if somebody wants to bring you the cards, you say, look, I paid 12 million for that card. I'm going to pay you the most money for your cards. So that's actually a bit of a business model too.
Well, he made the news, the highest selling card ever in history.
Yeah, and now his name is attached to that sale, which, from a marketing perspective, like they probably, I mean, I'm just kind of estimating here, but they probably got like at least $1 million worth of advertising just from everybody talking about him. And that's kind of the one thing that's interesting about sports cards too, is like Topps and Fanatics and Panini, like all the advertising that's done for them is done by the collectors. So like every year they're saving, I mean, I'm making it's a probably over exaggeration, but they're saving tens of millions of dollars in advertising because people are showing off their cards for free. Like you don't have to pay post cards on Instagram. Like you are paying for the cards, but then you are inadvertently advertising for those companies. And if you're Mr. Wonderful, if you buy something for 12 million and you got whatever, I don't know, 2-3 million in advertising, like realistically I think that's worth it. And two, like I mean, I get, I talked about this with that card. It's also somewhat of a tax write-off. Like if you're buying this for marketing purposes, there's some sort of business tax write-off you can probably do there. And somebody in the chat on the show was talking about how, that's not how tax write-offs work, and they wouldn't be writing off $3 million in losses on one sale. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if people do that necessarily, but I think that they are. And I think John Keating is asking about the advertising. They're advertising their company, like, or just advertising for yourself. Because if you can have your name in the news and how you have this company, that's what they would be advertising. That's probably like you get to go on all the shows. Everybody in the industry is talking about you. So advertising, I don't know. It's maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But either way, I just think, unfortunately, this card did lose $3 million, and whether that was on purpose, because again, I just don't understand, if you're going to lose that much money, why are you not putting some sort of reserve on it? Like, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of things that are fishy to me with that card and why it's sold and how you don't put any type of reserve on it. I don't know. It's again, doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, definitely needed some type of reserve. I don't know why the auction company didn't do that. I mean, if
it's
I
almost
owned
like
that card,
it's almost negligence on the auction company for not putting a reserve on it. Like, if the auction company, if they said that you could sell that for whatever, if they thought that you'd be able to sell for 7, like why not just at least put whatever it is, at least put a $5 million, I don't know, whatever. Maybe they needed the money.
No, I mean, get close to 7. Yeah, I would put.
Right.
If I was selling it, I would definitely tell them you got to put a reserve on that. I'm not going to sell it for 4 and lose $3 million. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, right. So I mean, that's pretty much, we're coming up on the top of the hour here too. So time kind of flies by on this show most of the time. So I'll kind of kick it around here and we'll sort of wrap things up. So Orlando, what do you have planned? What you got going on? What's your next couple weeks looking like? Or when do you know when you're gonna be back on the show? I mean, I don't think the the what's it called? The schedule is out, but like let the audience know where they can find you and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, John told me I'll be back on the show next Saturday.
Oh,
so
wonderful!
I guess somebody had they needed a pinch hitter, and I'm always the pinch hitter available. So Perfect. I'll be on next Saturday. We'll see what we're going to talk about. I'll be going to a card show hopefully next weekend, probably right after the show, and in the local area. And other than that, just I'll be putting out some videos here and there and just sharing my collection and just sharing some of my thoughts. So check out and subscribe to my channel, A Collector's Dream.
Love that. Yep. Rich, how about you? What you got going on this week?
Next week,
you guys were talking about some shows potentially.
Next week is the Dallas Card Show, and seeing from the chat, one John Keating is going to be making a guest appearance at that show.
Oh,
so
wow.
We get to see him in person. I mean,
is that going to be Saturday?
Let me assure you, he's the exact same way in person as he is in the chat.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so then he won't be in the chat. So if anybody is, whoever is on the show next week, if you don't see John Keating, he's not missing. He just is at the show. So just don't.
He's just at the show.
Just know that. Right,
we have a Dallas Card Show next weekend, and then the following weekend, there was nothing scheduled in the DFW area. So of course, two people scheduled shows for the week after the Dallas Card Show. Nature abhors a vacuum. Well, we took care of that. Now I'd rather we'd had a show either the 22nd or the 29th. Maybe somebody will do that, but it's okay. And as we were talking before the show, my local cards store, which is part of a conglomerate of mid-teens amount of stores around the world, including one in Singapore, where I'm hearing they're doing so well, they're thinking about opening a second one in Singapore.
Nice.
And I've volunteered to do some secret shopping there. They have officially announced for, I think it's the fourth straight year or third straight year, what we call their Secret Santa program, where basically you spend X amount of money and basically you buy boxes for the most part for other people. And then there's a party. This party will be on the night of December 13th. I'm going to say weather permitting, because unlike Orlando, we can get icy weather in Dallas even in December. But, weather permitting, December 13th. And it's a fun party. And the first year they did it, it was even more fun because it was the Secret Santa party from like 5 to 7, and then like a trade night from 7 to 9. So you could see the kids actually trading with each other. And yes, they had their Pelican cases. It was nice to see kids. Not every kid had a Pelican case, but it was still great to see all the young people involved in the trade night. And that's always fun to see. So that's a quick synopsis of what's going on for me in DFW in the month of November. And how about you, Adam?
Let's see. We have Daily Nonsense on the Sports Card Nonsense YouTube channel. That's something I got, that's Monday through Friday. So go check that show out. That's like a daily show that I do on there. We've got TikTok, Instagram, short form video, and then some stuff that's coming up on, si.com/collectibles. We looked at one of the articles that somebody posted there. So sometimes I write, sometimes it kind of just depends. I haven't written recently, but so yeah, you can find me any of those places. I don't exactly know when I'll be back hosting. I mean, I know it's been, 2 weeks for me. So if anybody's sick of hearing from me at this point, go check out Daily Nonsense, and I'll be back on the show in a couple weeks. I don't know exactly when, but yeah, so that's all we've got for the show. I want to,
one more thing, Adam.
Oh yeah, go for it.
One more thing. On this coming Tuesday, I'll be on with Mike Petty on live on Professor Sports Cards channel. Perfect. Tuesday night with Mike Petty.
Awesome. Yep, definitely go.
I will say this: I did back to back, but this was my November appearance, so you won't have to worry about me till December.
Yep. So Tuesday, make sure you go check out Orlando on that show. For me, like I said, just Daily Nonsense, Sports Card Nonsense YouTube channel. We'll be back here on For Collectors next week. We'll have different hosts. I think Orlando said he'll be back, but I think Rich and I will not be back. It'll be 2 other people. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next one.